Fonseca, U.S. Navy veteran. I spent 22 years on active duty. During my tenure, I was involved in the Battle of Al Nasiriyah on March 23rd of 2003. For my actions on that day, I was awarded the Navy Cross. And up next is my partner Nate.
And I'm Nate. I'm your token grunt. I've got 33 years of service in DoD, 12 enlisted Marine, 10 as an officer, and my combat tours were in Desert Storm and Mogadishu, Somalia. And tonight, our guest, um, well, actually, let's go with Doc Berry next. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Doc.
Okay. Okay. I'm Andrew Berry, also known as Doc Berry. I am a psychologist and psychoanalyst, and I specialize in working with veterans and first responders of all denominations fighting with post traumatic stress disorder. Um, Normally, at this point, I would come up with what we hope it would be a thought provoking question. But before we do that, and before Nate goes, um, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to not only the three of you guys, but also all of our listeners who have been sharing our videos and have been so supportive. I was elected fellow of the American Psychological Association uh, last week, and thank you, Luis. Thank you. Thank you. Um, the criteria for being elected fellow is you have to clearly demonstrate national or even international impact with your work. And to put some numbers to it, about 5% or a little less of the entire membership of APA go on to become full fellows. They're kind of like the brain trust of the organization. And I did not go about this the quote unquote usual way. I don't have a lot of publications and I haven't served on committees or taken the usual route. How I was elected fellow in plain English was I went from one microphone to another, bellowing, advocating, telling stories about post traumatic stress. The whole process started back in 2016 when I was invited to do an analytic presentation at the American Psychoanalytic Association's yearly meeting. And normally you have another analyst as your discussant. But also, as anybody who knows me will tell you, I can never do anything the right way or the normal way. Oh, hell no, I got to do it my way. And I thought, this is about veterans. Why do I need another analyst as my discussant? Why not have a veteran? So I got on the horn with Nate. He said, where and when do you want me? And we've done it since then 25 times or thereabouts, twice out in Los Angeles, twice in Boston, a large handful of times in New York, DC, Chicago, etc. And along the way, Luis thought enough of what we were doing to join forces with us, and that spread it out even further. And one thing the combat guys and the first responders have pounded into my skull for decades now is think big picture. And what that means is I acknowledge and I embrace the enormous team of people who helped make this possible. And those would include not just you folks, my vets, my first responders, my professors who believed in me, close friends of mine since childhood who were with me through some very dark, ugly years. So this is not just my victory. This belongs to all of you. And that would include our guest tonight, who I referred to as one of the true daughters of Joan of Arc when she was on with us the first time. I meant it then, and I mean it now. So thanks to all of our all of our listeners, and current and future, and to all of you. And back to Nate, the token grunt, friend and brother of many years. Do your official military intro, and then I'll see if I can come up with a thought provoking question as I sit here fighting the tears in my eyes. Go ahead, my brother.
Right. Tonight, our guest is Iraq veteran Dawn Walters. Right. She is a former aviation medic. In 2003, she served with Bravo Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Combat Aviation Brigade. She was stationed at Hunter Army Airfield in Georgia, where she deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom as a member of the Immediate Personnel Recovery Team. Currently, she serves as an operational support assistant. She's got 25 years of DoD service between active duty Army and civil service. She's a mother of 2 boys, one currently serving in the Army, the other is a master barber. And she is the author of 6 romance novels and currently working on 5 additional novels. And she's going to update us because it was 3 years ago now, a little over 3 years ago now, she was first one of our guests. And we were learning how to do this webcasting thing. And we had some technical difficulties due to one of my underpowered laptops that made the recording horribly hard to understand. So today we're gonna ask her a lot of the same things, and she's gonna tell us her story and also give us some updates since the last time we've talked to her. And I guess Doc Barry is gonna have a question for you. So I have no idea what that is. So put your seatbelt on.
Oh God, here we go. Let's do it.
God, no, just one of his servants, but thank you for the thought. In any case, when we were on Jaw Jacking before, you said something along the lines of, when you were on with us the last time, that a lot surfaced
Oh yeah.
because of that experience with us. If you're up to it, why don't you start off right there? What has surfaced as a result of our first encounter? Go ahead.
Gosh, what has surfaced? A lot actually. It was, I think, the following year. What started as just a conversation between 2 of the crew chiefs blew up into like 14, 15 of us in a group chat. And we did a 20th anniversary reunion of OIF-1. And we did that at Hunter Army Airfield. And man, we talked a lot about the stuff that we talked on here. It blew up into like, it was just a simple little, hey, let's get together and kind of celebrate life. It went from like 10, 15 people up to almost 55. And we are planning a 25th anniversary reunion in Savannah.
Wow.
And yeah, we're putting the word out because not everybody has social media, things like that. So that was a big event. That big thing happened, and it's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. We've got sponsors, and a lot of the guys who sat there and said, "Hey, you know what? I maybe don't want to get involved with this because of the emotion to it." But one of my crew chiefs, I was standing on the edge of the flight line, just kind of taking it all in, and he said, "Doc, I was prepared for the emotion, but I wasn't really prepared for this type of emotion and just how much really comes out when you're surrounded by all these guys." And it's funny because they all said, "Hey, thanks for putting this together." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Don't thank me. This is like a family reunion, And it's crazy because I could look at each one of them and put a memory with everything that we went through, whether it was in garrison or while we were deployed. And it was really therapeutic for a lot of us. That was one of the big things that happened. But we were talking about before we got on here how I had realized the Battle of Anazaria. Lewis was the forward medic, and we were in the back receiving. And when you're in the emotion of everything and you're talking about it, and you realize the guy you're talking to, like, holy shit, just decorated up to the eyeballs and ears, and it's just like, whoa. When you're in that emotion and you're talking about your deployment, you don't really realize, holy shit, holy crap, we were deployed together. And it just, you often, when you pick up, sometimes you kind of wonder who that medic was, or who that person was, that combat saver, that medic, or whatever that you're getting that patient from. man, this guy was, hey, excuse my language, he was fucking awesome. And you're in the back and you're triaging and you're running from one helicopter to another, and you're taking off of one and you're just doing quick little fixes and you're putting on another and stuff, and you don't realize when we got off that call, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just sat there and I was like, man, I was in the room with greatness, the three of you for sure. But I didn't realize at the time, it didn't hit until afterwards. Holy cow, man. Those were your patients first. Those were your guys. And it just, it's crazy.
It's
yeah, your turn. Say something, because wow.
No, what I love about that story, about our story, it's nice to say our story, huh?
Yeah,
But
it
our
is.
story, our connection in this universe is
Yeah.
there's something, and I don't know if we spoke about this when you were on here last time, but there's something I would quite often tell junior sailors, junior corpsmen, about um, being that frontline corpsman, right? Or for you guys, the frontline medic, right? The one that's working on the X. We and I was the same way when I was very young, egotistical. We're the ones out there saving lives, and it's
Yeah.
us, and
Yeah.
you kind of get spun up on the movies about, I promise you, brother, I'll get you home alive, right? um,
Yeah.
I I say, after so many years and being afforded to um to play so many different roles as I moved up in rank and moved up in knowledge or whatnot, right? I got
Mhm.
to see how we all play our part, and how that, what I call the continuation of a promise, how it's carried on by so many people. And what I mean by that is, yeah, maybe it was I on that day, right, Don? Maybe it was I on that day that got down next to my brother, and very egotistically, I would say, I promise you, you're gonna get home, you're gonna get home. But it was every other corpsman or medic that put hands on that casualty after I've surrendered them, right? After I put them on the bird, and I had to say, that's it, I'm done with them, it's out of my hands. That promise was carried on by people like you that I have no clue existed in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if 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 anything, when I get acknowledged for the actions that I did to help preserve life on that day, and I get to be the one that walks around with a medal on their chest, I want you to know, and I don't say this very lightly, that I know that medal also comes with a sister named Dawn that helped
Oh,
preserve that life. And it's beautiful to have our story connect that way. It really is.
yeah. It's Thank you. Oh gosh, yeah, that just it hit me like a ton of bricks, because we were talking about so many things, and when I got off the computer and I just sat there, and it just, I was like, it just tumbled over and over and over, and I was like, well, wait a second. And then once it was posted, I listened to it again and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So it's something I like to tell people too. I'm like, hey, I know a medic that, it's just the way things happen. It just was, I don't know, it was predestined to call it whatever, but yeah,
Right.
it's really cool. And people, you know, like all of us know that veterans, we all talk, and hey, this guy's super decorated and that guy's super decorated, and I was like, yeah, I had his patients, they came to me. And other people will go like, hey, I've heard of that guy, I know him, you should be on his podcast, it's awesome. You know,
That's
so and they're
amazing.
like, "What?" I was like, "We're friends on Facebook."
Right, right.
You know, it's just you take it's kind of funny. Like, I'm very proud of what I've done. Very proud.
Mhm.
I've met some great people. I think we've all met great people, you know, in our service. I think we've all met people we would rather forget and wish we hadn't met. Um, but it's the humbleness for me. You know, I kept a journal, and one of the things that happened since we talked last as well, like last year, we were in the group chat, we were talking. I was like, oh my gosh, I have my journal. And some of the crew chiefs were like, Doc, you should put stuff out there. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just do maybe 6 or 7 things, and I'll chronicle from Camp Udari, which is now Camp Buring, Kuwait, and I'll just chronicle up to Baghdad. And I hadn't cracked that thing open in what, 22 years? And the emotion behind it, there were so many things that I had suppressed. Um, and it just, like, the little things that you think you remember, but you don't. Um, from fun stuff and, you know, goofing around and watching the stars before we even crossed the berm, um, to the real heavy stuff, loss, and, you know, to mission capable stuff and breaking down and sandstorms and running out of water, running out of MREs, and, you know, just it was a luxury just to brush your teeth. Um, and so I did, and it was really hard to kind of make it PG so that people could understand, because, you know, we work off of acronyms and we
Right.
know. And and it was just taking those bits and pieces, and it too was very cathartic. And a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, you know, how did you, we did it. Hey, we were given a job. It's what you do in the military. You guys know, hey, this is what you do. Accomplish the mission. And that's what we do. We just go forward, we push forward, and we do these things. And um you know, good and bad, and in between happens along the way. And you have that family of, you know, cowboys and anime players and Halo players, and, you know, computer nerds and book nerds, and, you know, your rock gods, and you all get together. You're like this mismatched family of miscreants or whatever, and misfits, and you do things, and you compliment mission, and you check on each other and stuff. And it just it was just crazy. And it just it just really, I think, hit home that these friendships and these experiences that you experience with other people really kind of help shape who you are. Um, and for me to share that was really tough. One, because I was a female on a team with infantry guys and aviators, and so many people are quick to sit there and say, "Oh, you didn't do that." Everything you do as a veteran is questioned. Everybody, no, that's not it, you know. And it's, you're picked apart by your brothers and sisters. And I understand that some of them do it for good reason, because some people are not honest about their service, and I get that. I'm very proud of the things I've done and where I've been and who I am, but I'm very humble, and I don't feel all the time that I need to put my experiences out there, um, because nobody wants to be picked apart. You know, nobody wants to sit there and have to defend what you've done to somebody who doesn't believe that that happened. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
That you know, that was one of in the back of my mind. It was one of my biggest, I guess, fears about us doing the webcast. Right? Was how many people that were in the company but weren't with my platoon or my squad are going to be like, because they hadn't heard about it, certain things that happened,
Yeah.
or we're going to contest it. And but it's I've had both experiences, because I've also seen things like other people who were guests, people that I knew, tell a story that I didn't know about, and I believed them. And then another guest later on, like a year later, would be on and would tell about that same kind of story from a different perspective. So they're both verifying the same story that I knew nothing of. And
Right.
we're in a company of only like 250 people. It's like people don't realize how vast your experiences are, even within the same squad, you know? And that's the one, you know, I guess that's the risk. And it doesn't help too that you probably, it sounds like you experience the same thing. When we stuff things away in that box that we don't remember, inadvertently, a lot of good things get stuffed away in that box too, you know? And it's until you start talking to somebody, the stuff starts to come out. And then the stories about things that were trivial and didn't matter start coming back to you.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just to be questioned, I think sometimes is what's really frustrating. I don't sit there and 1 minute, Lewis, you didn't do that. You don't, all those medals, come on. No, there's no way. It just, what happened to, to, and it's frustrating that it happens to veterans, and it's frustrating that happens to veterans who've really proven themselves over and over and time again, and yet you're still questioned about it. It's like, did that happen? Well, you know what? I I have two companies, Alpha and Bravo Company and 2-3 and HHC, that sit there and say, yes, I was on that team. And yeah, we flew a couple missions as a whole team, but I flew a lot by myself as well. Um, and it just, I mean, gosh, that was 23 years ago now. And it's like, why are we picking apart people's lives at this point still? Some of it, if it didn't happen and, oh, I did XYZ, and you go across every platform and say you've done this, and then, you're found out. Yeah, that's one thing. But it just, it's a little frustrating. And that's why, the guys are like, hey, doc, these are, great things that happened, and you chronicled that, and you need to write a book about it. And maybe one day it'll be a fact-based fiction type of thing. I'll slide from the romance book side that I write and do a fact-based fiction, um and kind of put some of it in there. But i don't I don't need my life picked apart. I don't.
Right.
I don't need to come to my own rescue and say, hey, I was there, because I was. And I've got people that can say I was too. But it just, I don't know. I guess I'm more humble than that. And I'll never sit there and pick somebody else's life apart.
Oh,
It just, that to me is just frustrating. You put yourself out there, and it's, I don't
yeah.
know.
I think from my humble little perch up here, it seems like you know what you've done and who you are, and you're not going to embellish on anything that you've done.
Yeah.
You honor the service that you did, right?
Hmm.
Regardless of how grandeur someone might think it is, or how minuscule somebody might think it is.
Yeah.
For you, you honor that service. And when you hear other people and their service, you don't question them, because you're
Yeah.
thinking that they're doing the exact same thing, that they're honoring the
Right.
service that you have. And unfortunately, and let's call a spade, right? um, our female veterans haven't always had the easiest time when they say, hey, well, I was there too, I served as well. Like this whole, I mean, in this 20-year war. That's why I always laugh about the whole, should we have females in combat roles or not. It's like, dude, I've been in units where it's either all males or it's been integrated, and each one has performed up to their duties when it counted. um
Yeah.
but it's hard, I think. And please, I'm not trying to speak for
No.
our female veterans. I'm just giving my what I'm seeing, right? So it's hard for y'all to come out and say, yes, we did this and that, because somebody automatically feels like they're going to just dissect every single word to see where you're lying at,
Yeah.
where you're not telling the truth. And now, unfortunately, in the last year,
Mhm.
when we have had a lot of high profile veterans that have been found out to be lying about their service, about the actions that they did, to be awarded not just valorous medals, but very high distinguishable valorous medals. And I'll just leave it at that. I can see how it can make somebody even a little bit more timid to share their story. Like, look, all these other people are getting caught in these lies. I'm not lying about it, but I'm not going to sit here and defend what I know is fact and what is not. So,
Exactly. And it's just, I'm in a couple women's groups on Facebook, and I haven't experienced it myself, but there's a bunch of ladies that are just like, yeah, I'll go into the VA. Oh, are you here with your husband? Are you here with your, to pick up your dad or your uncle or your brother? Oh no, I'm the veteran. I don't I personally haven't had that experience. Um I, I don't, and they get really riled up about it, and I mean, I can understand why they do, but then I'm also at the point where, you know what, honey, you don't need to prove yourself to anybody. You put that uniform on, you don't have to prove anything. But that's just me. I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit different. I mean, be proud for sure. Be proud for sure. But, it's just women are the minority, and that's just how it is. Okay, moving right along. It's just one of those things. Um, but yeah, it's there's a lot of things that I have faced, and the difference is working in a basic training company now. Wow, you want to talk about changes and differences and stuff like that? It's just it's it's a world of change from when we were in basic and stuff to what these kids are, well, what these young men and women are doing now. But it's a cell phone world, man, and woo, they cannot disconnect. But it just, I don't know, I talk about some things and not others. There's therapeutic things that we talk about. um like, this is always, I mean, our last the last time I was on with you guys was just, whoo, man, I was riding a high for like a week. It was therapeutic as heck. A lot of the stuff that I had gone through, it was therapeutic, and a lot of people don't like to talk about what they've been through. I um I had a flight surgeon that had never worked with women before. Day one, brought me into his office. I don't like you. Well, you don't know me. He goes, I don't care and I don't want to. Okay, well, let me prove you wrong, dude, because I'm gonna. And I did. Um, it there were, you've got the Sharp program now, and we didn't back then, and I don't even, I can honestly say I wouldn't have used it. Um, it just, I don't know. It's just me. I just, I think people are made of a different metal, and once it's tested, you either make it and you move along, or you become a victim to it, unfortunately. And people don't like that, or may not like that opinion, but I'm not saying it's wrong. It's an opinion.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got a friend who's constantly saying he'll point people out, and it's like you could tell that person's battle tested, and he doesn't mean literal battle tested, right? But we've been talking about it lately, and I'm like, you can tell who's battle tested and survived. Right? Some people that are battle tested and didn't survive may appear as somebody who's not battle tested at all, right?
yeah.
Because they didn't grow through it. They didn't gain resiliency and stuff. And I, I understand exactly what you're saying. Some people just are already starting from a place where they require more reassurance or more support, so they're probably going to need those additional tools, right? And then there's other people where by the time they show up to boot camp, life has already crapped on them several times and they already know how to deflect everything. And,
yeah, that's a more eloquent way. That's a more eloquent way of saying what I was trying to say.
I don't know about eloquent.
Just shit on everybody's idea. Well, fuck Dawn and how she thinks,
Yeah, it makes me want to say, if somebody ever says to me, like, I don't like you, I'm like, well, it makes two of us. I don't like me either, so let's both stay out of my way.
Right. There are days I can't stand myself, okay? But yeah, it just, it's the experience is like, for me, just like day one when the flight surgeon hit the ground, he didn't like females. I didn't care. I didn't like him either. I thought he was a piece of shit, but that's just me. Other people really liked him and it was great and fine, whatever. I had opportunities at Hunter to train with to learn things from the Ranger medics next door at Tuttle Army Health Clinic. I had opportunities to train with the 160th guys like Sergeant Donahue and Sergeant Marshall, and gosh, they've gone on to do great things. I mean, Sergeant Major Marshall retired, is now a PA, and I think First Sergeant Donahue had just retired recently or something like that.
I mean, everybody knows who the 160th is now, but back then they were still like brand new,
They were, and you learn a lot. So I got to fly with them. I got to work in the same hallway with the Rangers, and it was all preparation, I think, for. I wanted to go into, my brain was just a sponge. I wanted to do so much. I wanted to do Army medicine like you wouldn't believe, and going forward, it was just a way for me to learn things and learn different trauma medicines and things like that, and we used a lot of that, or I used a lot of that deployed. You face adversities, everybody does. And it's how you come through the other end that really helps your character. There's a lot of crap that, nightmares and things like that. And I thought that working with a bunch of green suiters, and being back at Fort Benning and listening to the ranges and all these visuals that, that you go through when the trainees are going through training and stuff. Some of them are triggers. When I was having a bad day, so I have a whole brand new chain of command, all brand new drill sergeants and stuff. But the last set of guys, they just embraced me. If I was having a bad day, you always had that airborne guy, that hardened airborne guy, and that first sergeant that just is just like, rah, he's everybody's cheerleader, and the commander that just kind of takes everybody, and you've got those kind of quiet guys, and you've got those, everybody's super supportive, and you've always got that one guy who he's like the cool kid in school, the tall operator who's really quiet, and he doesn't say a lot, but man, when he does, everybody listens, and it's like, oh, and they could tell sometimes when I was having a bad day and they'd come into my office, Doc, are you okay? Yep, I'll be good. It's just, one of those weird deployment anniversaries that pops up, or, things that they're talking about. And you talk about your deployments and things like that. And they realize, oh my God, you were in OIF 1. Holy shit. That was a deployment. I'm like, yeah, it's not a tent city. It's not air conditioning. We were sleeping on the ground on cots if we had them, or in the helicopter, We didn't have air conditioning. We didn't have showers. We ran out of food and
No
water.
restaurants, no game stations, right? Nothing.
Nothing. No electricity. We didn't have any of that. We didn't even have an MKT in Camp Udari. We made the Stars and Stripes because our dining facility burnt down. And there were fuel limits right next to it. So it was, you know, and you talk about the good things. You always talk about the good things. And you have those times too where it's just, you know, that you're in a safe environment when you can talk about the bad things too, but you talk more about the good things. You know, and there was a couple drill sergeants that hadn't deployed, and you know, we kind of ribbed them lovingly. It's not, oh, you didn't deploy, well, you're not worth my time, go fuck yourself. It's nothing like that. It's, oh, so you're not part of the inner circle, you haven't deployed, you know. And you joke around, and the first sergeant would come around the corner and he says, well, hey, I have 3 different patches, which one do you want to wear? I'll let you borrow one today, make you feel like part of the club, you know.
That's got to be a tough experience. I mean, the 3 of us never really had, I don't think, had experienced that. For people who come in and they become senior, right? They make E5 or E6,
Yeah.
and they still have never been to combat. There's a whole generation now of people who spent 20 years and never got to go. You know,
Oh yeah.
and that's got to be a difficult thing, because it doesn't mean you're less proficient or anything, right? But even in the back of your own mind, I would imagine you're always feeling like you have to prove yourself, even though you don't. You know,
Yes.
I don't wish that on anybody. That would just really suck to have to do that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, no, it takes for one person to challenge you and mean it, right? To really make things horrible.
And it was always said in jest. It was always joking. There was nothing ever serious about it, because you know what? I wouldn't wish deployment on anybody. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I got to another thing that happened since the podcast. Joe Higgins is the councilman or something like that for Chatham County in Savannah, and he had a bunch of us lined up to talk to the new aviation troops that are coming up and stuff like that, and talking about resilience and things like that. And so it was really neat to take a minute, and I said, you know what, I would give all my medals and all the awards and accolades and welcome home parades or whatever to have everybody come home and not have to deploy ever. But we know that that's not going to happen.
Think of how much sleep you could get back if you hadn't done those deployments.
Right? I
don't mean sleep during service. I mean sleep since you left service, right?
Yeah. I actually, my brother and my nephew are staying with me. They've been with me for a little bit here. He's buying a new house, and it's kind of been therapeutic to have other people in the house with me, because before it was just me and the dogs. Well, both of my dogs passed away, so it was just me. And with my brother being a Desert Storm veteran and me being an OIF veteran, it's been kind of therapeutic for the both of us when he has a bad night or he can't sleep. You know, I'll wake up and I'll be like, hey, dude, why are you still up? You know? Or he's like, oh, I just, can't sleep, bad night, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I gotcha, and you have that opportunity to talk. And it's nice to have somebody that can understand. Not that, and this is something that an ex-boyfriend of mine just never understood. There are days that I'm just quiet. There's nothing wrong. I'm processing me, right? You have all of these traumatic experiences happen in a short span of time, day after day. You're in a combat zone, your fight or flight has kicked in. And I know a lot of people can sit there and say, I can empathize. But when they say, I understand, I don't I have a hard time of agreeing with that. I do. Unless you've actually been there. You can empathize and you can relive that. And I think, Doc Barry, this is something that I think maybe if I were in your shoes and I had never deployed, I would, you could try and relive it. And just when you listen to sometimes the horrors of war, I don't know, I can't really, not, it's not coming out right. When you've lived through what we've done, when you've done the things that we've done, whether it's, and I say we meaning veterans. So whether you're in a combat situation or you're a medic and you're trying to help somebody, to give this information to you and how you receive that, for me, I would have a hard time being in your shoes, because you so eloquently sit there and you can listen and you let us just go. We emotionally vomit all over you, basically. It takes, and Lewis, with you getting into this and you know, to sit there and take the time to listen. I don't know that I could do that. I would be a mess. And maybe it's just, you know.
Let me just throw something in here. By the way, you guys, I went back to earphones because I could barely hear. And so what I'm doing is shutting off the microphone so that feedback doesn't take place. So I'll try to keep it as short and sweet as I can. The first thing is I would never, I hope, I don't believe I've ever said I understand to anybody telling me what it's like to be in combat. All I can do is listen, and I'm pretty good at that. I do it for like 40 to 45 hours every week. Um, Wednesday is my long day, by the way. I start at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm done at 9 o'clock at night with an hour off for lunch. Now, a lot of people have asked me, how the hell do you do this? Like, it exhausts me,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. Hear me on this one. And anybody who's listening, hear me on this one. Um, Nate and Louise are always amused, like when we get done with one of these kinds of things. They're happy they do it. Now, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouths. Happy to do it and whatnot, but they feel spent. I, on the other hand, I get a rush out of it. So when my Wednesday rolls around and I do this for 12 hours, the last thing I am when I get home is fatigued. I'm on an adrenaline blast because I honestly believe I'm doing a lot of people a lot of good. I'll shut
Yeah.
up now.
No, you're good. It just, yeah. To hear the things that we've gone through or the things that we've done, and it just, yeah, man, it takes somebody special. Like, you guys are awesome for even doing this. Like I said, I was on an emotional high. I was just feeling great. It was like I had taken my whole life and just like just vomited emotionally. um but it just, you know the experiences that we go through, and you you leave the US and you leave all your creature comforts at home, and you go to the desert, and people want to kill you, and you're like, dude. I sat there in my journal one night, and it was just after a particularly hard day. It was a tough day. My uniform looked like shit, my boots looked like shit. um I flew with the dust off that was attached to us. And I felt like I was just a band aid in a trauma unit. That's what I felt like. I they flew me over to where 2-3 was at. They dropped me off. And I got off the helicopter, and I had repressed this so much that when I was reading my journal for things to kind of put in, it hit me like a brick wall, just pow. And I remembered, and I remember just kind of pushing it back to the back of my mind, because it was just bad. It was just a bad fucking day. We had sprayed out the helicopter maybe twice, and then flew out and picked up again. And I think I was maybe in shock, a little bit of shock. And one of the maintenance guys had found me, and he called over one of the crew chiefs from Alpha Company who was doing maintenance. And he said, "Hey, she's just standing there. Is she okay?" And the maintenance guy, he wasn't somebody that I knew real well. And I don't even remember what crew chief it was this time. I didn't look at the journal before we started, but we were always joking and listening to music together, and I can't remember who it was, but he came over, he says, "Doc, are you okay?" And I said, I don't know. I'm hungry." And they took me into one of the maintenance trailers. They were on, I don't remember what they were called, but it was in a little trailer and stuff. And they brought me in there. And I remember one of the guys had gotten somebody else, "Hey, go to her AO, get her a clean uniform and a t-shirt." They got into my duffel bag and they got my stuff and they came back. And I just remember my brothers just sitting there. "It's okay. Here, eat this. Here, drink this. Here, let's get you out of your boots. Let's get you out of your flight suit. Let's get you into a clean flight suit and a t-shirt and stuff." There wasn't anything there but camaraderie. Nobody looked at you different. Nobody looked at you in your bra and underwear any different than if you were a guy and you were surrounded by dudes and you were just being taken care of. And it's things like that it's things like that you hate to repress, because you remember that's part of a good day. That's part of that horrible day that ended good, I guess I should say. And then afterwards, one of the NCOs, whose name I don't remember either, and I didn't put it in my journal. We used his nickname, and I don't remember what it is. He washed my uniform that night, and he cleaned up my boots. And the next morning, they were sitting by my cot, and I was on an early flight with Bravo Company the next morning. But it's little things like that that make those hard days better. And I journaled about that, and you look back on it now and you go, "Gosh, I just felt like a Band-Aid. Am I doing any good out here?" And it just really, it really gets into your psyche, and you're going, okay. And that's when you hit that vicious cycle of, okay, is this worth this? Is it, you question everything. Good gravy. I think I questioned just like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And I went into OIF hoping that I could make just even the smallest bit of difference. And if that patient come off that helicopter with a pulse of like 10 or 20, he was still alive to me. And that was a win in my book, because then everybody else, that cash or whoever we dropped him off with, could take it from there. It's just little things like that. I remember, and I journaled one day. We started early, and I think it was around 12 or 1, and we had come off of a flight, and the NCOI, there was a medic NCOIC for 2-3 was there, and he goes, "Hey, I need you to go on a convoy." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" And he goes, "Yeah, I need you to go on this convoy. We can't fly this guy out. We need you to go on this convoy." And I'm like, "Dude, I am almost out of crew rest." You don't crew rest when you're deployed? Probably not a thing. It wasn't really with us. But he says, "I need you to go on this convoy." And I said, "Well, I'm still in flight mode. And my pilots were like, nah, dude, we need her later. And he's like, no, she needs to go. I said, well, where's the other medic? Why can't you go? Well, I served in Desert Storm. I did my time. Now, I'm not discrediting that at all. I don't know what he did, but I can tell you he did not do very much when we were deployed. He and that's fine. You know, maybe there was something that happened to him during Desert Storm, but he said, I did my time. I'm not going. And it just pissed me off. And it's not that I had to go, it's just that I always volunteered to do things, even when I didn't. And I still do that now. You know, when I'm at the company and I'm in at 7:30, Dawn, why are you still here? It's 8 p.m. Go home. You know, and they're taking the folders from me and or whatever. Go home. It's just
Yeah.
people, you know, people have different work ethics.
Yeah, a person that does what he did, all you're doing is you're causing slack. You're creating slack that everybody else has to pick up. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, you went and swam more before and you did something, but guess what? You're somewhere again, and it's time for you to do something again. That's too bad that everybody else had to adjust and pick up his slack.
And it just, he was not, he and the flight surgeon were good friends. And Major McGraw, who was the overall senior flight surgeon, fantastic. Oh my God, he came to my rescue so many times. You know, he was nowhere around, and I was just told, suck it up. The other medic was on aid station duty, and it was just, I needed to go. I was like, you know what? Let's just avoid any SUs and I'll go. And I'm sitting there in the convoy brief, and it was Captain Bruce, the HHC commander, said, hey, the new tactic that they're doing now is they're pushing civilians into the street. Like women and children are walking into the road because they know that the Americans will stop before they hit them. And I'm like, wait a second.
Only for a little while.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry, what now? He goes, do not stop. When you get off the airfield, there's this big sign that says lock and load your weapon. What they did not tell us is that coming off the northwest side of the airport, that was called the shooting gallery for a reason. And it was heavily used by American troops, whether it was Marines or Army or whatever. Even the Brits and anybody was in the shooting gallery. And the children would come, the mother and the kids or whomever it was would come up to the road, and the Americans would stop, and then they would ambush the Americans or whomever stopped. And the orange and white taxis, the orange and white cars and trucks, oh my gosh. So he's like, if you feel threatened, you will shoot first and we'll deal with the consequences later. And I'm like, wait a second, what? And so I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, you're from supply. You're a couple dudes from the motor pool. Yeah. Where's the infantry here? Why are they not doing this? Well, the battalion commander at the time said, hey, we can do this mission, no problem. We couldn't fly them in because they were in the one of Saddam's palaces that was considered a they had a big carousel. It was like a mini state fair. And there was too many wires and too many things that just, he had this huge Ferris wheel. And I'm like, what? And I'm sitting there going, this is not real. This is unbelievable, right? We can't fly this guy in there. Where's the infantry? Why are they doing this? Why do you have a medic and a bunch of people from an aviation unit taking this guy in? Well, battalion commander said that we can do this mission and we're going to go. We're going to do the best we can. And man, he gave the best speech ever. and I was on top of the world until I had to lock and load my weapon. And I was like, let's go. And because, and Lewis, you know, being a medic, you run that line between confidence and cockiness a lot, and you like to be in control. And I needed to be in control. I was in a situation that I did not like, that I did not want to be in. I was so completely out of my element, but I was like, hey, this is a mission. We're going to go. We're going to do it. And daggone it, I had my aid bag right here. We took the soft doors on because that's all we had. We didn't have any of that up armored stuff. And we went out. And at the sign, you locked and loaded your weapon. And I had my M16 and I was ready to go. And the first 10 or 15 minutes of a 45-minute drive was good. I was like, yeah, what are they talking about shooting gallery? This is nothing. And then out of fucking nowhere, these orange and white taxis come just zooming around. And they had separated. So I was, I think, in the 5th vehicle. There were 7 of us, and I was right in the middle. So these guys are way up here. I'm here, and there's 2 behind me, and my radio isn't working. And I'm getting that thing, and I'm like, hey, slow down. Hey, hi, hello. Is this thing working? And I'm like, okay, all right, let's just calm down. Let's just keep going. And we're driving. And we're doing about 45. And then we're down to 35 because they get in front of you and they slow down. And I started to freak out. And then they started, when they got us really good and separated, they started shooting their weapons up in the air. Well, I didn't hear, my TC wasn't moving. So here I thought, holy shit, something happened to my TC. And he's just kind of slumped like this on my aid bag. And I'm like, holy fuck, now I'm in total panic mode. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And I take the handset of the radio and I start banging it. This fucking piece of shit won't work. And I'm trying to drive. And I'm like in full fight or flight mode. And I'm like, holy shit. The only thing I can think of is to hit the brakes so that these cars, as I'm slowing down, they'll just zoom past me so that I can at least get with the guys that are behind me. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a great plan. Let's slow down. We'll have to speed up eventually. It'll be okay. You know, and I'm still hitting the handset on the radio. And I'm like, why is this piece of shit working? Hello, hello. And I'm keying the mic and I'm just like in panic mode. And I look over at my TC and he still hasn't moved. And I'm like, fuck, I can't drive and take care of him because I'm thinking he's hit. And I'm like, holy shit. And so I hit the brakes. Everybody like swerves around me. And then I just hit the gas. And so we catch up. Those guys up front slow down just enough that we can catch up. And then we hit a dirt road. We just get off the highway and you hit this dirt road. And my TC is like, what happened? What's going on? And I was like, what the fuck happened to you? Where were you? He goes, oh, I had my earbuds in. I almost killed him. I almost killed him right there. So I was like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? So then we're on this other little road, and this woman and these 2 kids step up to the road. And I'm like, no. And he's just keep going, swerve to the right a little bit. And I went to swerve to the right, and there's this orange and white truck, and this dude has, I don't know what kind of weapon. It was huge on the back of it. And I'm like, holy fuck. Well, if we hit him, I said, dude, make sure your legs are in the truck and the Humvee because we're going. And like I swerved enough that my M16, because I'm driving with my left hand because my right arm had my M16, and I could just feel just the whoosh from her. And I looked in the mirror and we had missed her. And I know the muzzle of my M16 was just millimeters from her. I'm freaking out. I know everybody else is freaking out. My TC is like, what the hell happened? I was like, well, I don't have time to explain, motherfucker. You fell asleep. How can you fall asleep? Right? So then we get into another dirt road, and it's just nothing but smoke, and everybody's there. And we pull into the gate, and the guy's like, it was Marine based. He's like, hey, go ahead and put your weapon on safe. And I'm like, all right, cool. And everybody gets out. We get this cav guy to where he needs to go. And I sit there for a minute, and he looks over at me. He goes, Doc, please don't tell anybody I was asleep. Please don't tell anybody. And he was a new guy. I didn't know him. He had just gotten to the unit, and I was like, just go for a minute. Just go. And he gets out of the Humvee, and everybody's we're all a little rattled, and I got out and I threw up all over the sidewalk. And Captain Bruce came up to me. He goes, are you okay? I said, my fucking radio didn't work. And we got separated. And so he calls the commo guy over, because of course they put the commo guy in the front with the commander. He comes over. He goes, what's wrong with your handset? I said, absolutely nothing that you can fix, because I was banging it and I had put a dent in the radio in the Humvee. He goes, what the hell? I said, dude, I was trying to get it to work. They were firing shots in the air. I thought they hit my TC. I'm freaking out. We're separated. And he goes, Doc, say no more. I got it. We're good. We're good. And I can laugh about that now, because it's just, it's one of those fight or flight things. And, here's
you die?
Right. We made it. Hey, here's Don just bang, and all I can think of is like the guy in Armageddon when he's hitting things. Why are you hitting the nuclear weapon? It's still made in China.
Hey, did I hear you right? The convoy commander was on the front?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was in the front. And I was like, dude. And I was
That's
like,
some big brass ones.
yeah, our AAR was fun. We didn't go on one of those again. On the way back, I said, I need a new TC. And they said, why? I said, I just needed new TC. No questions. Okay, gotcha. Got a new TC. Hey, Doc, I'll drive. You will not drive. I will drive. You stay awake. We're good. He's like, gotcha. And we got back, and we didn't have the same issues. Actually, we didn't see any of the orange and white vehicles or anybody on the way back, thankfully. But it's just, when I was reading my journal, it all started coming back, and I was like, oh my God, how could I have forgotten this? This was like, wow, and we had it. I have a picture of us all somewhere in front of this damn Ferris wheel. And it's like, wow, it's just little things like that. And just, yeah, that happened. I was there, man. I lived.
I was just going to say, there are so many crazy things that happen that nobody will ever believe. And I think that's why so many people now say pics or it didn't happen, right? Well, back then, you really didn't have very many opportunities for pics, right?
No, we didn't have cell phones. I had a satellite phone, though. I did have that, the big brick.
Yeah. How many dollars a minute did that cost?
I didn't use it very often. I think I used it maybe twice. Hey, I'm here. Because, calling home was, you had to get a calling card, and then you had to get an operator and explain to them, hey, I'm going to give you this number. I need you to call this number. Here's my calling card number. But this is the CQ phone number, so that when you got into battalion CQ or battalion staff duty, then they would call your house for you. It just, it was a pain. And the only guys that really got to call home with any regularity were the commo guys. Which was nice. Perks of being a commo guy, I guess. But
yeah, they know when they can get sat time.
Yes.
So Don, every time you went and deployed into country, you had an M16?
We had what?
You had an M16?
Yeah, I had an M16 and an M9. I didn't wear my medic brassard though.
Mhm.
One of the old battalion commander, the aviation brigade commander, was like, I want all the medics to wear their brassards. And I said, sir, I will respectfully decline. And he goes, why? I said, if I wear this brassard, big red cross on my arm, that puts everybody on my team at risk. So we can't fly into a hot zone and fire. That's against NATO rules. And the only people that play NATO rules are Americans. And I can't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm not.
Even in World War II, the enemy didn't abide by that.
Yeah. And I said, I'm not going to put my team at risk. And it disappeared. But yeah, I had an M16 and an M9, and I qualified with both of them. It was crazy. Oh gosh, what else did I write about? Just, what did they call them? The shamals and stuff, the big sandstorms. But when we got up to Baghdad, 101st had actually cleared the airport, and we were staying in an old aircraft warehouse, and with all the parts and stuff. And the infantry guys that were attached to the immediate personnel recovery team had gotten one of the slides and inflated it off the second story roof. And yes, I have those pictures on my Facebook. I had gotten lots and lots of disposable cameras. Then I would take pictures, and then I would mail them home, and my family would have the pictures developed and stuff. And that's those were our memories. Now they have like cameras and cell phones and different things like that, and I wouldn't say the camaraderie is different, but the type of the lifestyle maybe is different. Like when we were there, you had the big tents and stuff, and you didn't have the air conditioned trailers and things like that, and you didn't have internet. I read, always reading. I brought a couple books. The Tom Brokaw had done a 2-book series on the Greatest Generation, and I would read those out loud. And the guys would sit there, and we'd stop for the night or something, and we'd eat, and I'd read a little bit. Hey Doc, what are you reading? I'm reading about the Greatest Generation by Tom Brokaw, and I still have those books. They're really dog-eared, and I'd read them. And man, when you read about what other people have gone through, you realize just how bad you don't have it sometimes. Sometimes it's just a little bit of an escape from what you've gone through. There's a lot of things that, even today, little things like living at Fort Benning, you hear the ranges and stuff. And a lot of people are like, hey man, that's the sound of freedom. And on good days, it's fine. And, you're up on Sand Hill like I am working, and, you hear it all the time. They're shooting blanks or different things like that. And I didn't hear that a lot. When we were in Baghdad, when we finally moved into the office building, after we cleaned it up, because we always pointed north, on the west side, you'd always see the infantry guys over there. And you'd see the white flares go up and you'd hear them on the radio. We had some great crew chiefs. They would connect into the talk and stuff, and then they'd have speakers up on the roof, so you could kind of listen to the war. And in a way, that in itself, I think, was kind of therapeutic, because you wanted to know what was going on. And you could hear what was going on and things like that. And it just, on the nights where I couldn't sleep, I'd go up on the roof. I'd like leave a note on my bunk and say, hey, I'm up on the roof. And there were times where just hearing other people that they were out there, was therapeutic. And then there were those nights that you really heard those calls where, they were just screaming into the radio for help. Sorry.
No,
But
no need to
it's like,
apologize.
it's like a bad accident. You can't just stop watching or stop listening. You have to hear the end. And sometimes it's, when you hear the kids on the CTA and they're going through radio stuff, like we just did that a couple weeks ago. Little things just bring stuff back. And but then you kind of have to turn that around for yourself. It's, on one hand, it's really therapeutic working with what we call green suiters or active guys, because you feel like, man, I have never, with the drill sergeants of class 0479 and the chain of command, I've never felt like a family since I got out until I got there at Delta Company. And even with, I lost 8 of my guys in Delta Company. And so I have a brand new company pretty much. And it's different. And it's, we're all just kind of coming together as a family. Things are, they're working their way out, but it just, what?
I wanted to offer you something to think about. You've come back to this, talking about your harder days, your more difficult days, difficulty sleeping, memories coming back, and whatnot. And this goes for all of you, all three of you guys, and anybody who's listening. Lives were lost, yes, but also I have to point out, lives were saved. Many lives were saved. And on your darker days, I want everybody listening to this going forward to please try to remember from the Talmud, he who saves a single life saves the world entire. Which is a hard thing to remember on the darker days, but I would urge you to put in the effort. You understand what I'm saying to everybody here?
For sure.
I'll shut up now.
No, you're good. Man, I should have put in my waterproof mascara. I just wiped all my makeup off. Good Lord. But it's, you have those great days, and you have those tough days, and working with the soldiers and working with the trainees, it's therapeutic in a different sense, I guess you could say. And I run the Facebook page, so it's fun to get the pictures from the drill sergeants and the chain of command, and I'll go on the CTA and I'll take pictures of the kids and stuff like that, or I'll go up to Eagle Tower and I'll take pictures and I'll put them up on Facebook. And you've got a lot of parents that they don't know about the military like we do, and sometimes it just takes that soft person to kind of welcome them in and explain things a little bit better. One who's not with the kids every day trying to train them. And it's fun being a part of that team again. Like working in the MEPS with Doc Moore and a couple of the other docs and the recruiters and stuff and the liaisons was fun. But this is like, you're truly a family here. And man, they embraced me 110%. The new chain of command has been great. I have a brand new commander. I have a first sergeant who's who's done as much of a cycle as I have. So we're all kind of, feeling this basic training thing out together. And, the the drill sergeants are coming along. We've been kind of piecemeal, like, a unit would be, from different companies around the battalion. And so things are buffing out. They're getting better, but it's when you have those bad days sometimes, and you're surrounded by green suiters, is what we call them in the Army. They just kind of look at you. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm good. The anniversary of 557 is always a tough one in April. You lose your 6 guys of your company, and one of them is your commander, and you just watch them tossing the football around or strumming a guitar or singing or just whatever. And when Captain Adamowski said, hey, in the brief before we left Camp Udari, he got all of us together, all of the crews and the infantry guys, and he said, we'll get you to where we need to go. We'll get you to Baghdad. Just listen to your team lead. We'll get you there. We'll get there safe. And we'll all come home. And for him to say that and then, not come home, it just, yeah, there's 6 of them, and one of them was one of my favorite crew chiefs that I loved flying with, Matt Boulay, and his sister and I are friends on Facebook and stuff. And when we had the 20th anniversary reunion, I had lots of people brought pictures, but I did stickers of our flight patches, and I sent some to her, and she was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And here at Fort Benning, we have the Infantry Museum for the Army, and they have marble slabs for the guys in OIF and OEF. Hold on, let me turn on my light. There we go. God, my room is a mess. Sorry, I have the grandbabies, so they're out in the living room. But they have a small wall for Vietnam on one side, and then on the other side, they have these bronze statues, and they were actually created and molded from actual guys infantrymen that had deployed to OEF and OIF. And it's really neat. And then they have these huge slabs of marble, and in them are etched the names of all of the guys that, have passed away, that were taken from us. And so I had my first time seeing it when I first came back. I was with friends that I had known for like 8 or 10 years. And I walked up and I was like, oh, this is really cool, man. This is awesome. And when I saw the 6 names for the first time, I lost it. I just lost it. I guess I wasn't prepared for that. And so I went back, and I just stepped back from it, and I just, like, there's people milling around. It was the 4th of July. There was static displays out, and here's this 5'3" redhead just bawling her eyes out. And I was beside myself, and there were coins and flowers and rocks and, all the little things that we put out for our guys. And this volunteer for the Infantry Museum come up, and he gave me this big, huge hug. And he says, yeah, I got a couple of guys on there too. How many do you have? And I said 6. All in one day. He's like, holy shit. He said, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And he came back with a black crayon and some papers.
Oh.
So, yeah. So I did that. And I sent that to Matt's sister, and I did one for his dad. And then all 6 of the guys, I had done one for me. and put it in my journal. And it just, so every April 2nd, Baghdad time, I usually get the flowers before, 6 red flowers, and I lay them on the memorial on their slab. And yeah, so when I was journaling up to Baghdad on my Facebook page, Wendy was like, I'm really enjoying this. And she goes, and I know that this is very PG rated, but she goes, I just couldn't do it that day. And it was very short. It was just a picture. And I told her, I said, you know what, when you're ready, you can. But it just, when you're sitting there and they have it in such a place, and it's right off of Fort Benning, but it's so quiet and it's so peaceful. And they tell you, they do all of the graduations, the infantry basic training graduations there. And this field has dirt from Normandy, from Vietnam, from OEF, from OIF, so Iraq, Afghanistan, and all the, they had gotten dirt from everywhere. And it's crazy, right? So my first graduation with class 4079, I was like, wow, this is cool, and then to take the big brigade picture out on that field was neat too. So it just, every time, we go out there for a practice or something's going on, they have static displays, I'll go out there and I'll say hi to the guys, but it just kind of grounds you a little bit, maybe.
I know what you mean. That's awesome. You have a place now that you can, so close that you can go to connect,
Yeah.
It's not always easy to do at home, right? Or at work.
Yeah. And it's just because I live on post. So I actually kind of pass it on post in my neighborhood and just kind of do a U-turn and go out there. But yeah, they have a guy that comes and does Huey rides out there too on a lot of stuff. Yeah, he'll come and he'll land his Hueys in the parking lot and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but yeah, no, I'm good. I like my 60. I'm not a big UH1 fan.
You got your hours in.
I do. I'm good. Thanks. Bye. But yeah, so it's fun. It just there's so many things that kind of define you as a person, like I've said before, and it's how you come out of the other side. I'm sure we all have those days where you're having just the worst day ever, and you're like, man, what is, like, why am I here? What am I doing? And I had a lot of those deployed. I really did. And I kept, I don't know how it started. When I would get a patient, I would sing, when I was particularly nervous, I would sing the Pina Colada song. Don't know why. Don't know how it happened. My crews would hot mic me. I can't figure it out. And it's not like I was listening, hey, let's listen to Rupert Holmes while we're deployed. And of all the songs, right?
Not quite the Flight of the Valkyries.
Exactly. And I would sit there and I would get really nervous. If you like pina coladas. And I'm doing my medical assessment from head to toe of my patient while singing the Pina Colada song. What you got, Doc?
And strictly speaking, it makes a lot of sense because you're doing the same thing right now. That's a song about romance and booze and so on and so forth. And what are you doing now? You're pounding away on your PC, cranking out romance novels, or as you say, smut or whatever it is. You've been doing this a long time, man. Check it out.
Well, it's funny because in my journal, I had started, like, I had journaled, gosh, as a young girl growing up in Europe. You know, my dad was Air Force. Um, well, actually, both my dads were, because I was adopted when I was younger. But I, I am a hopeful romantic. You know, I'm a single woman, hopeful romantic, and just I'm in love with love. And when I started writing, fortunately or unfortunately, the women that I started talking to wrote the smut. So I'm good at smut, apparently. But it's good smut. It's deployed smut. It's not just smut. There's a story there. Um, you know, and the big one that is my it's a big seller for me. I'm not a bestseller by any means. You know, I'm small potatoes. I don't put myself out there, and it's called Anchor Line. And my friend Ruben, oh my God, I think I put some of his deployment in there. He's an infantryman, you know, he's a jump master. And he's actually, I've got a couple deployment pictures of him that I just absolutely love. And Ruben and I have been friends, gosh, 13, 14 years now, maybe even longer. And we became friends because I had a terrible towel on my wall when he came in, when I was the records lead, when I was at Benning the first time, and we just became fast friends. And just that's all it's been, is just friendship. And I bugged the shit out of him. And he was a jump master trainer, and he had his mustard stain because he jumped in, Lewis, when we were all three of us were there at the same time. Actually, he was with the 173rd, so he got his combat jump in. And yeah, so it was really neat. And I would ask him all these questions and stuff. And there's like left seat, right seat stuff in there. There's, you know, all kinds of stuff. So there's deployment stuff in there. So, you know, and so it's not just smut. But I'm writing a sequel to it because everybody liked it so much. So, yeah.
I always love it. Anytime the 173rd comes up, it always gets my attention because one of my uncles was in the 173rd in Vietnam.
Oh, no way. Yeah, he was actually in Italy. And I didn't know him then. But yeah, he jumped in from Italy. He was in, I think, the 7th Chalk or something like that. So it was really neat. You know, oh my gosh, we were there at the same time, but, you know, separate parts of,
Cool.
you know, Baghdad. So it was neat. You know, and I ran into a couple guys I evac'd even. They were like, "You look familiar." And I'm like, "No, I don't." They're like, "No, you look familiar." And at the time my hair was short. And he goes, "No, you look really familiar." I was like, "I got out in this year unless I evac'd you in a helicopter in Iraq." He goes, "Oh, that's where I know you from." And I'm like, "What are the odds? No way. There's no way." And he described it perfectly. He was with the Ranger Regiment, and they had gotten ambushed, and we were just flying over. Like, I don't even remember what we were doing. I think we were just doing a supply flight or something. I don't even remember. It's in my journal, actually. They had gotten ambushed, and their little vehicle went off like a 10-foot cliff, and he just smashed his face in the dash. And so it was just all bloody, and like he didn't, amazingly enough, none of this was fractured. It was his orbital bones. And it just, because your face is very vascular, it looked really nasty. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. But yeah, he smashed his face, and I was sucking on a cherry dum-dum. He goes, "You had a lollipop that day." And I was like, "Oh!" I was like, "No." He goes, "Yes." He goes, "I remember you. You evac'd me." And I was like, "Oh my God." It was so crazy. And then the next day, he came back in with a card from his wife. And she just, oh my God, tears everywhere. It was great. It was really neat.
I can attest that when you wake up, when you come conscious and people are working on you, for some reason, faces being right over the top of you. I still remember the faces that were working over me when I came to.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because whether you're laying down or standing up, you would think anybody's face in front of you. But for some reason, something about coming to consciousness, and they're not necessarily staring right at you, but they're working on you, and the only thing that you can see is right above you. And maybe
True.
that's the reason why you just fixate on them.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember he kept trying to steal my cherry dum dum, and I was like, no, dude, no, you have trauma. I don't know what's going on here. Stop. But yeah,
He was trying to take it from you.
yeah, he was trying to take it from me. I was like, stop. So finally, I threw it out of the aircraft before we took off. And yeah, he goes, oh my gosh. And then there was another guy we had picked up. He was ambulatory. But he had shrapnel all down his side. Um, just one of those unfortunate events. I don't think, because the IEDs started the second year, if I remember correctly. I don't remember. But they had hit something, and he had shrapnel everywhere. So I remember trying to get some of the bigger pieces so we could figure out what was going on. And he was just like, it was just moving some of the bigger pieces to try and get his armor off so that I could see what was going on. And he's just laying on his left side, and he's just fixated at me. And in training, they tell you, never, ever, ever tell them you're going to be okay. You tell them, I've got you. I'm going to take care of you. And because I remember his battle buddy was just so distraught, he couldn't leave him. So I said, I looked at his NCO and I said, if he needs to come, just let him go. And we weren't flying far from there. I said, we're going to the nearest cache, and I don't know what it was. I think the crew chief did, because this was when I was flying with the dust off. And I said, we'll take him. He can be with his battle buddy. And because he just couldn't let him go. I mean, just a young guy. And so we flew with him. And the only thing that ran through my mind was, don't slip up and tell this guy he's going to be okay. Don't tell his battle buddy he's going to be okay. Because if something happens, you don't know what this guy is going to do. And you see it in the movies where they're like, Doc, is he going to be okay? Or you promised me he was going to be okay because he didn't make it or whatever, And that was the last thing that I needed on a helicopter, And it just little things like that. But yeah, the Pina Colada song and yeah, when I was nervous, when I had my patients, I would sing the Pina Colada song. And but yeah, in my journals, growing up in Europe and stuff, oh yeah, I wrote a lot. There's a couple short stories in my journals, that I had started writing, just some romantical whatever. Oh yeah, this will be a cool story maybe one day.
Well, yeah, that sounds like a good name for a chapter, right? Pina coladas and cherry dum dums. I don't know, people going, what?
Right. But for me, I think back, I listened to a lot of Three Doors Down. I listened to a lot of Flogging Molly's, a lot of Dropkick Murphy, being an Irish girl.
So all the red-haired bands, right?
Yes, all the red-haired bands. What else? Just a lot of stuff. But the one song that really stuck out was Fuel, the band Fuel, Falls on Me. If you get a chance to it, listen to the words or read the words, and there's this one part where he sings, angels send me your might. Oh God, now it escapes me. Let me find it, because it is just so poignant. And I listen to this song sometimes over and over when I need it. Hold on. Well, I can't operate my phone and talk at the same time, apparently.
I know what you mean, though. Sometimes you get in that mood, and after you do it, you're like, "Why did I just do that?" But you
Right.
play a bunch of songs, right, that put you back there, and then get you balling, and then you're like,
Yeah.
"Why am I'm sitting here in my house all by myself crying, and I'm the one who did it."
Exactly. And it's like, son of a bitch, what was I thinking? Um, good Lord.
I haven't heard "Fuel" in a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or maybe it's not. Oh, maybe I have the wrong song, but it's by Fuel. Hold on. Um, La La La. I'm an idiot. Wrong song. But I listened to that one. That was a good one. Um, hold on. Let me find it because now it's going to drive me crazy.
It's okay. You're driving up the search history or the search algorithm on YouTube to get them some hits.
Right? Woo woo. Unfortunately, that lead singer is not with them anymore. But oh God, I forget his name too. Good Lord. Um. Okay, where's it at? Da-da-da-da-da. Innocent. That's what it was. Um. And there was. Oh, come on, give me the lyrics. Don't play it. No, don't play it. Don't play it.
It's okay. We're not monetized.
Okay, good. There it is. Okay, what is playing in the background? Stop. I didn't play you. Good Lord. Stop. Go away. There we go. Sorry. Yeah,
So
this
as
is my,
long as it's not a romance audio track, here we're good.
there you go. Oh, here it is. It's by the band Fuel. The song is called Innocent. I like the other one too, but this is the one that I would listen over and over. And there's a point where he goes, "Angels, lend me your might, forfeit all my lives to get just one right."
Oh wow.
And it was so powerful for me.
Now I'm going to listen to that afterwards and wonder how many times I sang the lyrics, but they never clicked with anything.
Yeah. When he goes on to say that we were innocent. And there's one picture in the video, it's really cool where they show soldiers. And for me, it was just so poignant. We all went into that so innocent. We didn't know shit. We didn't know what to expect. And Lewis, I don't know if you remember when we went forward, they said, "We're not an invading force. We are a liberating force." And it
Right.
was mainstream media that said, "They've invaded Iraq." And we sat on this long runway in Camp Udari when it was Camp Udari. And we listened to this little radio. Like it was like, I think, C batteries. And the only station we could get was BBC. And we listened. The Americans have invaded Iraq. And the world was just on fire. And we sat there. And we were all so very innocent. And just like, oh my gosh. And then I think it was one of the pilots, he had his NVGs and he was looking because they had started the air war. And if you put your NVGs on and you looked south, you could see just the barrage of stuff coming overhead from the Navy. And it was spectacular, like in the awe-inspiring sense, spectacular, not just, oh, yay, spectacular. It just, I was like, wow, what did we get into? I have a copy of our chaplain's prayer before we broke up and left the aviation part on the flight line and all the ground people up to the berm. He gave me a copy of his prayer. It was really cool.
Wow.
The division commander came to the airfield and he got everybody together, aviation brigade together, and he said, "Do your job, do it well, look after each other, and you'll come home." And I think at Hunter, the only ones that received casualties were Bravo Company, and we lost 6. I met a commander, and I can't remember his name. I think his first name was Andrew or something like that. He was in processing Fort Benning, and I was the records clerk that was looking over his ORB at the time. And I said, "Oh, sir, you were in OIF 1." He goes, "Yeah, I was in one of the armor battalions from 3rd ID." And I was like, "Oh, no way. I was in 2-3 Aviation." He goes, "Wait a second. Were you guys the ones that were looking for the 6 body bags after the helicopter went down?" Now, mind you, this is the new post commander, not the garrison, just the post part of the Fort Benning commander. And then you have garrison, which is like big, right? He was there. The colonel was there. His aide was there. 3 other people were there. Medical was there. I was there. Like there was 12 people, 15 people around the table. And it got really quiet and everything focused just on the 2 of us. And I was like, "How do you know that?" He says, "We heard the flounder call come over the radio, and they were looking for 6 body bags." We didn't, we were untouchable. He drove by us that night. One of the helicopters, it was mine actually, was broken down on the road. So they had to skirt the blades. We had chem lights on the blades so that the tanks wouldn't hit them as they drove by to Karbala Gap that night. And he said that he goes, "Gosh, I remember somebody from the TOC reaching out saying, 'Hey, we need 6 body bags.'" He said, "We heard the call go out. We were too far away to respond." Cool. So we used their sleeping bags instead of body bags. You make do with what you have. Recovery was just, recovery.
That had to be especially hard for that to come up in that venue and you weren't expecting it, I would imagine.
Oh, tears from both of us. And we just stood up at the same time and hugged each other. And it just like, everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is so crazy." Like, you think for as big as the branches are, right? The chances of you running into somebody that knows what you're talking about are slim to none. And here it is at Fort Benning. Um, 2 of the guys from the immediate personnel recovery team, the infantry guys, were stationed here. And Josh and I hung out a lot. Frank Vega is still here. He's retired. He's kind of, he's one of those guys that's just, and you would know, being infantry, you just kind of want that quiet life sometimes. You're a big advocate for veterans and mental health, and man, that's awesome. And there are so many guys that were infantry that they're just like, "You know what? I'm good. I'm going to work on me. I'm going to make sure my close buddies are good. But I'm just, man, you're not going to see me." And it's tough to lose those friendships and stuff, lose those guys. Because now
Can't find the vast majority of them.
No. And I think that's why we're starting so soon with the 25th anniversary reunion of OIF for 2-3 and Aviation Brigade, because there's so many people that aren't on social media, and friends of friends know who they are and different things like that. And they're just in your backyard and you don't even know it. So yeah, it just like, you're dealing with the ups and downs of life. And, I went through a divorce. It just, like I said, I'm a hopeful romantic, and I'm in love with love. And, I have my days that I'm just quiet, and it's just, hey, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm good. I'm reflecting. I'm quiet. I'm fine. I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm not going to hurt anybody else. I'm fine. I just need that reflection time sometimes, and to have somebody understand that, it's tough. It's
So
tough.
interesting coming from you. I understand what you're talking about, but I don't think you know this because I probably never said it to you. But after you were a guest 3 years ago, about November or December of that same year, you started checking on me and reaching out to me and guiding me through some stuff. And I never said it, but thank you for that, because you helped reorient me in direction that I needed to get reoriented in, that I had been avoiding for a long time. And after talking with you, I actually shared something with Doc Barry that I told him I would never tell anybody, any living person on earth ever. And I was able to, and you were helping me think through some of the memory problems that I was having and ways to work with that. And it's the first time saying it in public here, but this past Monday or Tuesday, here's the memory thing. This past Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember which day it was, I just spent 4.5 hours at the VA at Polytrauma having my memory tested. And, that stuff all came from, listening to some of the things that you had told me and advised me on. I know you did, because you had firsthand experience with somebody, that you knew that you had gone through that with. And I didn't, you said things to me that nobody else had said to me or had me think of until you. And so that got me in the process of actually opening the box up, so I thank you for that.
Oh, that's what we're here for, brother. That's what family does. And it just, I think of the veteran community as brothers and sisters, and some of them you're just more close to. And, and it's the little things in life. And I always tell people, don't thank me, I'm just paying it forward.
You don't realize it, but you spend a lot of time feeling like the bee in the Blind Melon video. You think you're the only one, right? And then all of a sudden something happens, and then there's a whole bunch of you, And so those moments are awesome when they occur.
Yeah, it's good. Well, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that I could do something small. For me, it's just, it's just taking care of family. And it's just, that's good. That's so good. That's a win. That's a big win.
And I saw Luis leaning forward. I think you had something to add real quick, something that was similar before I move us to something else.
No, you're good, Nick. Because what I had to add, like you probably already covered it, so just made my mind go somewhere else.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It just, I feel like I just, I feel like sometimes I'm all over the place and talking about things, and it's just like it's kind of like the way I write. I'm an emotional writer. I can't just be happy and write an angry scene,
Well, at the beginning when we first started talking, you said something that it kind of clicked with me and made me think of something. But these crazy things are happening when you're deployed. Lots of them, but because it happens in a deployed environment, a combat environment, they're not unusual for that part of your life that you're in at the moment. Yes. But then you get back out of that time of your life, and any one of those things to happen today would stand out because it would be so odd, right?
Yeah.
It could be, a whole book all by itself, any one of those days going in depth. And part of, I think, what gives us trouble sometimes is because it's so foreign to what our current reality is like, it almost feels surreal and almost like it didn't happen to you, like it's somebody else's life. except that when you think about it, the feelings come back to go with it that remind you, no, that was real and it happened. And
It's
that's
yeah, it's like
hard to
those
explain.
it's like those olfactory classes that the VA gives every now and again, right? So I did one of those when I came back from Iraq. And I have learned that I absolutely hate the smell of lavender. It makes me rage. I'm just I hate it. It's just it's horrible. It reminds me of my mother that I am very not um we are estranged and have been for a little bit. Um, and she would just have lavender all over the house. And it just reminded me of something that I just times that in my life that I absolutely hated. Um, things that were great, coffee, basic, everyday coffee. What can I not drink anymore? Coffee. So, so when the guys at work make coffee, I'll just sit there and, oh, yes, coffee. I love the smell of coffee. Across the board, there was 25 of us. And coffee was the first defining calming factor. Um, for me, it was the clean citrus scents, lemons, oranges, things like that. And then they started bringing in like, and this was big for me. I came into Delta Company in their 5th week of training, which is like the 2nd week of white phase. So red phase is 3 weeks, white phase is 3 weeks, and blue phase is 3 weeks. And then you turn green, and then you have the OSET portion. So Echo Company beside us was picking up. And that morning, I had walked onto their CTA. And you remember how your gear smelled in basic training? Just that.
Sweat and canvas.
It's just, it's like a canvassy smell with, it's just
Like a
distinctly.
plasticky, canvasy, yeah.
Yes,
And
yes.
Yeah.
And that,
reconstituted sweat from 40 other recruits before you.
yes. And you have 230 some odd bags, or bags for 230 some odd kids, right? And I walked onto the CTA, and the wind just whipped around the CTA, and it was just a breeze, and I got a whiff of that, and man, I had to stop and close my eyes, and I was like, yeah, I remember that. I just stopped, and I took a picture, and I posted it on Facebook with, hey, my sister company is picking up today. So when we picked up bags for this most recent class, yeah, same thing. It just kind of takes you back. They had just like fuel and exhaust fumes, and like if sand in the desert was a smell, they had that too. And it just, it's, they were trying to come up with some olfactory thing of therapeutic whatever. And so it was really neat, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that again. One good thing that, it was a little, I think because, not because I was a female, but because I was the only medic there was 8 or 9 other guys, and we were in a group therapy session together with the VA. Now we were all still in, but the VA, because let's face it, behavioral mental health did not know how to take care of us when we came home. Everybody was on the same medicine, and nothing was titrated to your weight or how you're feeling or anything. Everybody was just put on Ambien for sleep, and either Prozac and Wellbutrin and everything else, and propranolol for night terrors and things like that. And so the VA had sat there and said, hey, we'll take some of these guys off your hands, and we'll do group therapy. And I did that for 6 weeks. We met 6 times. And I told them, I said, you know what, this is great, but I don't think me being a medic and those guys being shooters, first person shooters, I can't, like, I can relate in the fact that we deployed, but that's it. I like, hey, double tap your targets, guys, so I don't have to pick them up. And, you know, I had to cut my hair. I had one of my my pilots cut my hair short because if you pick up EPWs, they don't like women. They will not let women treat them, period. They will bleed out before they let you touch them. And so it as great as it was really tough to get into a group of people. And the counselor was one that I had seen one-on-one, and he actually used my case, you know, growing up and being adopted and deploying and everything like that, as a showcase soldier for post-traumatic stress. So it was really cool. And I had even done a little video piece and stuff like that, and how it affected relationships and things with even my two boys, you know. And CJ, my oldest son, deployed to Bagram, and he was on the QRP when the gate was blown. I don't remember when he deployed. It was 8, 9, 10, when the Basra gate was blown up by a suicide bomber. He was there. And he got launched for that, and he saw some of the carnage and stuff like that. And he's like, Mom, I'm good. I'm like, honey, are you okay? He goes, Mom, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. We had an AAR. I was lucky enough not to have to worry about a lot of that. And I thank God for that, because I like I said, if nobody ever had to deploy again, that would be awesome. That's not reality. I wouldn't want my worst enemy to experience some of the things that we've had to experience, you know. And some people take those stories and they expand upon them and they run. These are things that yeah, well, we've experienced them, and everybody deals with their experiences in different ways, and they cope in different ways. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. You get that guy that just, yeah, I'm good, man. Whatever. I don't need this junk. I don't need therapy or anything like that. I don't really consider it therapy as much as just you just talk through it sometimes. And it's that in itself is so cathartic. You know, it's I don't know, I've found that it's helped. It's helped me, you know.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about the fact that we as humans lost and due to technology, right? Advancements, but I think there was a time when everyone sat around the campfire at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? And talked about their day, right?
Yeah.
Families would sit around the dining room table and talk about their day. And now, we don't talk that to each other anymore. And so a lot of those stories or a lot of those experiences that that you know generations ago we spoke about with our elders to help guide us through those
Yeah.
hard times, now we don't, and we just bottle up inside, and it all comes out the wrong way sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So
And it does. And it's like, so like my mom would get mad. She goes, well, your dad never talked about Vietnam, and your brother never talked about Desert Storm, and you don't want to talk about Iraq. I said, Mom, being in my head some days it's really hard. I said, you think of being in a 10 by 12 room writing, just typing up casualty reports from forward in Vietnam that are coming back. You think you have post traumatic stress? Oh, honey. Welcome to my world. Come into my head. You wouldn't last with some of the things that we've had to do. And I could not imagine, like, even when I went on that convoy, man, I'm a badass in garrison. I will shoot anything. I will kick your ass in garrison. I thank God that I never had to even think of firing my weapon. Like, for real. I don't know that I could do it. I don't. I can't answer that question. And you know, it's funny. I'll go on a date and and, and this happens more times than not, and I don't know why. So my friend said, you know, you're a veteran. That's cool, and you deployed. That's so awesome. And I'm like, okay, this is not what I want to talk about on a first date, but sure, yeah, we'll okay, I'll indulge you. So, did you see any dead people? Are you fucking kidding me? Did I see any dead people? Well, I saw a few. Did you shoot anybody? Nope. Didn't do that. Yeah, no. But man, that's crazy, huh? I was like, yeah. The dead people, man. I was a horrible medic. Fuck, man. I didn't know what to do. And he has this abject look of shock on his face. He's like, oh my God, are you serious? You panicked? You're a medic. And I'm like, nah, dude, you're good. And he's like, you know how we have that dark humor? And I'm like, oh no, I'm kidding, man. It's all good. Yeah, whatever. And he's just like, those are America's sons and daughters you're talking about and you're joking about. I'm like, dude, you are taking this way too fucking serious.
What a way to put a lot of distance between you right away, huh?
Like, I think we're done here. You know?
Check, please, and he's covering it.
Right? I had a bartender. I went downtown to the Loft here in Columbus, and yeah, we were just sitting at the bar, and the guy was a veteran. The bartender was a veteran. The dude was a civilian, and it was just a friend of mine wanted to just, hey, you know, Don, I'm looking out for you. You need to be with somebody. You're fun. You're vibrant, and I'm overqualified. I get it. You know, you get a little older in age. You get a little chunky. I get it. It's whatever. But yeah, it's always the same two fucking questions. Have you shot anybody? Have you killed anybody? Or have you seen dead people? And I'm like, seriously, these two questions need to die. And I was laughing, you know, we're laughing, and the bartender was like, I just stood up. I said, we're done here. And he goes, you're leaving so soon? And I was like, how much do I owe you? And he goes, honey, you don't owe me anything. He goes, that was awesome. He goes, I'll charge him double. And I'm like, you're my guy. You know? But it just, when you're dealing with post-traumatic stress, for me, it's surrounding myself with a fantastic support system. And I'll tell you, Frank and Gladys, who I've known for 40 years growing up, I could call her or Frank any day. And sometimes it's just listening to her talk. My friend Jennifer Hollingsworth, she was my boss for a year. And she just, sometimes it's just a quick text, hey, just checking on your friend. And she has become the sister I've always wanted, you know? It's just really having that great support system when you're dealing with this junk. You know, you have those high highs and those low lows, and you see them coming, and you have to learn to reach out. And it's like being on here and what you guys do is just like, I sing your praises all the time. I really do. Doc, we have to get those flyers made, damn it, so I can put them all over Fort Benning and get some more guys on here. Because if they even get a little bit of how I feel afterwards and getting through this, you know, that's a win.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah, and it raises the question about how one defines family.
Yeah.
And you've brought up in the past, with me in private as well as on the prior webcast, what it's like to do, what it's like for you to deal with the maternal unit, who, shall we say, based on your description, falls several miles short every chance she gets. And as I often say, the first cut, the first cut is always the deepest. There's what a mother or a father should be versus what they actually are.
Yeah.
And she's not about to change. So what does have to change is, for you, your expectations of her, and it's happening already. Thank God.
Yeah.
But it really talks about what is the definition of family. I was fortunate, by the way, for anybody who's listening. After we did this the last time, Dawn and myself and my kids and my wife met up
Oh,
at um, at Cracker Barrel or something like that.
yep. It was Cracker
And
Barrel, Jacksonville. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
That seems
yep,
to be his go-to
and
place.
yeah, because it makes me go all the time. Anyway, um, but that was one of the most family-oriented meals I think I've ever had. And, I don't have a mom or dad anymore, and I haven't had them for a long time, and I have no brothers or sisters. I'm biologically an orphan, but no, somebody pointed out when my own mom died, I said I feel like an orphan, and somebody said to me, you got brothers and sisters all over the country, all over the world.
You do. A
And
lot of
that
us.
guy was true. That guy was right when he said that to me. And the same thing goes for you. So another thing I can offer you on when your darker days come and the echoes of the mominator start chirping at you, it takes a great deal of extra effort to focus on the pro dawn contingent. And I think the pro dawn contingent numerically outstrips the anti dawn contingent by thousands to one. Just you try to remember that on your darker days, would you?
I will. Thank you.
Amen.
Mm.
Thank you. Gosh, I've kept you guys on for over 2 hours.
I was just gonna about to say
It's
I hate to be the bearer of bad news and stop this great conversation, but we reached our about 2 hour minute
Yeah.
limit. Now I don't know if you hear the little guy in the background, but I think he's ready for dinner. So
you get it. Like an idiot. One more thing. I'll just chuck in here. I should have thought of this at the beginning and apologize. Luis, I sent you the picture of you and I standing at the together, shoulder to shoulder at the convention. I wanted to ask you to put that one up as well, and I'm going to tell you why. And it's hopefully it'll tie everything together we've been talking about tonight. It's easy to say just when things can't get any worse, they do. Well, what they never tell us is every once in a while, just when you think things can't get any better, they sometimes do as well. And when I received my fellow's certificate, that was, or so I thought, the culmination of my professional career. Just when I thought things couldn't get any better, they did. Just prior to it, Luis, if in case Dawn, you haven't been informed, he is pursuing his undergrad in psychology. He wants to do what I do. He wants to work with vets and first responders fighting
Yeah,
with
I saw that.
post-traumatic stress.
I saw that.
And yeah, this is also for the people who don't know yet. And for somebody of his magnitude in the veteran community to ask me to mentor him, holy shit. I got soggy, and Luis will be a witness. I'm a soggy person, disgusting though it may be. But it also raises the question of who is mentoring who here. Now I'm being deadly goddamn serious. Yes, there it is. Methuselah and whatever. No, but seriously, you got Luis has asked me to mentor him. That man, as well as the rest of you, have taught me so much. Yeah, I'm the big hairy guy with the shaved head and the nasty beard with several thousand pieces of paper. But that doesn't mean shit in the grand scheme of things. It's what you all have shared with me and taught me how to be a better shrink and a better human being. And ranking right up there at the top of the list is Don Walters, Nate Emery, Luis Fonseca, and I could go on for a country mile, but we don't have time because Phoenix is hungry. But
I
at
want to
least
be
I got
fair
it
to
out of my
Luis. I want to
system.
be fair to Luis, though. People need to know, Luis is not short. Doc Barry is a ceiling dragger. He's that tall. Yeah.
How tall are you, Luis?
I am short. I'm only 5'5".
Oh, see, I'm only 5'3", and I looked like a midget compared to him. So
Yeah.
you're
yeah.
good. It's
But
good.
anyway, it's been great, and I meant
Yes.
every word I said tonight. Thanks to you all. Thank you for coming on again, Dawn. And
Yes,
as
thank you,
usual,
Don.
and we wouldn't expect anything less, you've been eloquent. Keep it
Oh,
up,
Yeah.
for God's sakes, whatever you do.
thank you so much.
All right,
Yeah,
everyone.
we didn't hardly have to say anything.
Mm-mm.
I know I
Nope.
felt like a babbling idiot. Thanks.
Oh no,
No, you did
perfect.
great. We appreciate it.
It
So,
just, a bunch of different things happened over the past 3 years, and it's amazing what happens when you like reach back in the recesses and
right.
and that
Start talking.
yeah, and it becomes very therapeutic, and yeah, it's good. Thank you so much. Thank you
Good. Well, we look forward to having you on again.
for
Always have
sure.
an
Yeah.
open invite with us.
Well,
All right,
I'll see
everyone.
if
Yeah.
Well,
I'll see if I can't get you guys out to the 25th anniversary reunion and say
sounds
some
good.
stuff and get some of the guys on. That would be awesome.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Well, have a good evening. And if you enjoyed what you're watching, please like, subscribe, and share. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Right.
There we go. Oh, did they just disappear and jumped off right? Wow.
Wow, they're just like